Okay, so I was curious, like, how do you maintain like your collection, like with weeding, because you want your library to be that exemplary um, status? And I know, like, weeding and looking at your collection and the statistics of like the age of the books and like if it's being checked out as you. So how do you
Right, and
do all
so
that?
since I was new, I did a report last year, and the librarian before me, we did 9,000 books.
Oh my goodness.
So the best part about Destiny is using Tidal Wave, and they can analyze your collection and tell you different areas that you need to work on, what's the oldest. And I knew I needed to work on nonfiction, specifically even biographies, because there were some biographies like Sean Cassidy, these kids don't even know, and they were asking for people that we didn't have.
Right.
And you got to stay current, and we even needed more memoirs that some of these students were wanting.
Right.
And so I knew that some areas, but I didn't know exactly. So I ran the collection analysis, and I pulled it up, and it pulled up specific, and I went
Okay.
ahead and ran reports, and I did print some out because I wanted to kind of keep some of this.
Right.
And I realized that the librarian before probably updated some of this, but some of the older ones wasn't deleted, like police
Right.
brutality. Do we need police brutality from 1975?
No.
Right. So it was updated, but there was 2 copies from 1975, from 1998, but then there's a 2001. So then I started thinking, well, we could delete the other ones and keep 2001, and that could be something I can continue to work on.
Right.
So my purchase order that I'm working on now is updating some of my reference and some of my hot topics. And some of my hot topics right now are legalizing marijuana, vaping, which a lot of kids think that it's healthier than smoking. So I wanted an update resource on smoking. So as I'm talking to them about topics, I'm always writing down. And if they're talking about biographies and somebody wanted country and western singers, we didn't have George Strait. And I was like, okay, we don't have any country and western singers. We have plenty of rap and things like that. So I started listening to what they were saying. And then there was even a student that wanted cowboys. And he even mentioned specific John Wayne. And I was like, hey, I know John Wayne, and I'm older, but he said he watches movies with his dad. And I'm like, okay. So I started looking at what students are looking at and what they're needing. But having this report helps me know that I need to weed, and at the same time when I'm pulling them, I'm also updating my current order. And I always have Tidal Wave open. So as I find something I need, if I'm talking to a student, I immediately go and I'll write it down and search for it later whenever I have a few minutes. So
Perfect.
constantly adding.
So it's kind of just like a constant thing you're doing almost all year long, like just slowly and
Yes, and so one thing about high school is that there's days that it's very busy. We have 3 classes in there. They're checking out, they're doing research, I'm doing this. And then there's days that they're kind of slow.
Right.
And these are days that I can kind of sit here and print reports and look at them and go back. And having aides, they can help me pull some books. But then I did notice that some students were just pulling the title and not looking at the copyright date. So I realized that, yes, they can pull books for me, but then I still need to be the one to make sure they pull the right copyright, because even though I tell them, they're not gonna. So this is something that I started looking at. So as you can look through here, these are the 300s, and I've highlighted some, but like 1998, East Texas calling, the history of telephone exchange from Lufkin. Okay, that's a history of Conroe. Maybe we need to keep that. So we didn't highlight that. But there are some that you have to like look at, and then look, is there anything that you could get from a sole source that's not on Follett, something locally, and update something that's even on Conroe. So
well, thank
I think
you,
that helps.
Thank you. That does. Thanks.